All right.
Yeah, we're live. Hello,
Hello, comic
world.
Hello.
community. All right. Another fantastic event today. Another fantastic guest. I'm going to let someone else introduce. Let me introduce my panel. We have K-pop. K-pop, introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm K-pop. I host interviews and art streams and whatever streams and comics. Nintendo.
Okay. I'm just warm. Anyway, let's go to Otaku real quick.
Yeah, it's your tour guide here. Yeah, we've been doing this series for the entire month of May, which is AAPI Heritage Month. And in honor of the month, we've got a very young and independent creator with us. He has a book that's just come out, or it's been out, and we'll learn more about him and the project as we get into it. So just want to introduce Alan Wu. Alan, go ahead and kind of introduce yourself to the comic fam.
Hey everyone. I just wanted to clarify first of all that my comic Gen 2 it is coming out in September, so it's not quite out yet. But I have been just like talking about it in a bunch of places, so in some ways it feels like it's already out. But I'm Alan. I'm a writer and a budding comic creator now. Um, I've been writing for a pretty long time. I kind of grew up writing a lot of just short stories and novels and fan fiction, and I went on a lot of online like text-based role-playing sites. In the past few years, I've been more focused in the screenwriting space, which has been a really fun adventure. And so I feel like just over time, I've been like kind of exploring more and more different uh, mediums, and that's been just a bunch of fun adventures. The most recent one for me has been comic books for sure. I got into comics as a hobby as a whole pretty recently. Like a lot of the fans I meet, they've been reading and collecting for their whole lives. For me, I've always been a fan of superheroes, but there's a pretty big gap in my life where I just wasn't really reading comics. I read a lot of manga, and I would watch all the MCU movies and stuff like that. But I mean, in retrospect, I feel like it's a little bit harder to get into Western comics in some ways. Just it's hard to know where to start. It's harder to even buy them if you don't go into the specialized stores. But it was just a couple years ago that I kind of realized, I love superheroes. It just doesn't really make sense that I'm not reading comics. And so I started to explore just little by little. And all of a sudden, I kind of fell into like the black hole of comic book fandom. And I like went completely off the deep end and started buying way too many issues and all that. And so it's now comic books are taking over my life. I feel like all my friends are probably tired of me like talking to them about superheroes and comics. But it's been a really awesome creative avenue for me because coming from like more of a screenwriting background in recent times, like I found it's been really um, fulfilling to be able to start creating indie comics. Like it's just much harder to do things on that scale in TV and film, where it's. I mean, you can make a short, but especially on the TV side of things or for animation, it's harder to make your own thing, and that's what appealed to me so much about this recent project of mine, which I guess we can like move into like that part of the discussion a little bit later. But I actually initially wrote it as a pilot for an animated TV show, and I decided to try and convert it into a comic book, and that's kind of what led me to the start of my journey as a comic book writer and creator.
Great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So before we talk more about your project, I just kind of want to focus on you for a minute. So can we just focus on your cultural heritage and where are you based?
Yeah, so I'm currently in Las Vegas, house sitting for some relatives, but I generally live in California in Burbank at the moment. That's where I grew up as well. So my parents are from China, from the Sichuan region specifically, which is mostly known for hot pot and spicy food. So I feel like that's the part of it that like most people like if they know anything about Sichuan, it's the spicy food. And even, even when I like interact with other Chinese people, if you bring up Sichuan, the first thing they'll ask you about is hot pot and spicy food. So that's a big part of the culture for sure. But yeah, I was born in California. Like my parents moved over right before I was born, basically. I grew up there. I went to New York for college and ended up staying there to work after I graduated. And then a little bit after COVID started is when I moved back to California. So I've been like in California for the majority of my life, I would say.
Great. And so, yeah, growing up in California, I mean, um, it, there's a lot of Asians in California. And you said you read manga. So, what kinds of things were you into as you were, growing up?
Growing up, I read a lot more books like as a kid than I do now. Like I feel like that was like my main medium like for recreation. I also played a lot of video games as a kid, of course. What else? I did read a lot of manga. I read a little bit of comics as a kid. Like I would my stepfather would take me and my sister to the bookstore every weekend, and I feel like I was very spoiled in the sense that like every weekend I'd like we would each pick out a book to buy, and then like I just like amassed way too many books. But sometimes I would get like one of those I guess they're trade paperbacks, and I would get like the original Spider-Man comics in trade paperbacks. So I read a few comics, but it was mostly reading novels and uh, playing video games.
Yeah. Um, so, you're into books, you're into manga, you're kind of just, I guess, like a regular kid, just kind of into.
Yeah, I had basically like the full like range of like nerd interests, I would say.
Right. How did you get into writing, particularly screenplay writing? Because you said you you wrote this comic book initially as a screenplay, right, or as a animated series type. What prompted you to go toward that goal of writing and putting together a project like this?
So writing is something that I started doing pretty early. My like absolute earliest memory of like a creative work I did was in second grade when we like just one of our class assignments was to make a short little play. Um, and I got really into that, and I like wrote this play called The Heartless Demon. I distinctly remember it was probably like it was like on one hand it was the edgiest thing I could conceive of at the time, but also I was in second grade, so I don't know how edgy it ultimately was. But and when I was a kid, I would doodle a lot, like draw little like cartoon characters, and that's something I've completely fallen off of as well. But I think around when I was in middle school is when I started getting like a little bit more. Like middle school is when I decided like I want to like spend the rest of my life being a writer basically, and that was something one of my teachers helped me out a lot with in sixth grade. It was actually my social studies class, not my English class, but my social studies teacher gave us an assignment to write like a historical short story. I wrote some story about a caveman who's climbing a mountain to like find a medicine herb or something, which like now that I think about it has a few parallels with Shantu, so maybe that was the origin of the story. But I think sometimes when it comes to like not just creative pursuits, but like anything that becomes a passion in your life, if you get like some encouragement early on enough in your life, then it goes a really long way. And for me, it was my sixth grade teacher who like I wrote this, dinky little story, and she like responded well to it, and she would tell me stuff like, "Oh, when you write your first novel, you have to like thank me in the credits and stuff like that." It was very kind of her, and that kind of put me on the journey of like, oh, I want to be a writer, and that's just what I've pursued ever since. It's mostly prose for a while because when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, uh, like I just wasn't really aware of filmmaking and screenwriting. I feel like it's easier to know of the existence of not novelists because they're just, I don't know, like a little bit more obvious. Um, but I eventually took a class on screenwriting as a whim, and I did this after I graduated from college, which was like a little bit of a bittersweet feeling for me because I went to NYU, which is like very well known for their film school, and
Wow.
I
Yeah.
feel like if I had made that decision a little bit earlier, I could have like had access. I could have taken way more relevant classes, but it's only after I graduated that I kind of discovered screenwriting and moved more in that direction.
Okay. So you did study film though in
No, I,
school.
I studied English literature.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Well.
not the
Yeah.
most
Relevant.
useful major.
Uh huh. Um. All right. Well, let's kind of ease into the book. How did you? So there's, I'm going to let you introduce Shen to how would you describe what it's about, and you know what kind of inspired you to write this piece.
Yeah, it's funny. I've done like the short pitch for this as a show and as a comic so many times that you would think I have it like down pat at this point, but I haven't done it in a little while. So let me try and like conjure it up on the spot. Basically, it is a comic set in ancient China. It's inspired by Chinese myths and cartoons, and it follows the story of a rabbit girl who somewhat accidentally becomes immortal. And then she goes on this centuries long adventure to recreate the elixir of life. And along the way, she's outliving her loved ones again and again. And part of like the gimmick kind of the premise is that it's a series where much more time passes than in the regular show or comic book series or just
Mhm,
the average one.
mhm. So you're writing this as a serial. How many of it? How much of it have you written so far? And what are you expecting in terms of it's are you at the beginning, middle, end of the story? Where are you with in terms of internalizing how the story arc will conclude?
Yeah, so I in terms of the big picture, I have most things loosely nailed down. In terms of what is like specifically written, I'm not that far ahead of what I have coming out in September, but I am working on the next stage of the project right now. In terms of how long the project is expected to be, the way there's two components of this that I can talk about. In terms of like how long I like foresee the series being, I've structured the story so that it's kind of based around the lifetime of Shentu's mortal apprentice. So in the first couple of issues is when she takes on her apprentice when he's just a young boy, and then the story arc follows the extent of his lifetime. So
Mm,
there, and he's mortal, and time is going to be passing like reasonably quickly. So there's kind of sexy rabbit girl. I don't know if I said that part, but uh
So,
yeah. So it's like there's kind of like a somewhat fixed endpoint in that one of the main things that the story is about is the fact that the time you have with people is limited, and it's just gonna, and that end date is gonna get closer and closer. So with some series, I feel like it would be like a spoiler to say, oh, like most of the characters are gonna die. But with a premise like this one, like, I will say, like, from the time that the main timeline starts until the end of the story arc, it's about 80 years.
Hmm.
So, in that time, like, most characters will reach the end of their natural lifespans. And
Hmm.
so it's that there's just like an upper bound in terms of how far I can go with the story of these characters.
Right. So, Shentu, could you kind of give us some background on the mythos of this character?
Yeah. So it's so Shentu herself is not based on a specific mythological character, but one of the other characters who appears in the first issue is the goddess Tanga, and she is like an actual figure from Chinese myths, and I think there's versions of her in other Asian myths as well. Um, and I only really used the legend as the jumping off point for the story of Shentu. Like it's not an adaptation of the myth. I essentially took the myth as the starting point and went from there. But the actual myth, I believe, or one of the versions of it, is that uh, it's kind of a wild myth. It starts out with there being like 10 suns in the sky, which is not even that relevant to anything else that happens. But there's 10 suns in the sky. Also, this part is not part of the Shentu comic, but there's 10 suns, so it's like way too hot on Earth. And there's this archer named Ho Yi, I think, who shoots down 9 of the suns like with like arrows. And so that makes the Earth have a tolerable climate, and he's rewarded by the gods with an elixir of immortality. And for some reason, that probably varies depending on the specific telling of the myth. He doesn't consume the elixir. He just like kind of keeps it, like, I don't know, like for later.
Uh-huh.
And he goes out and has more adventures, like he's hunting or something like that. And his wife Tonga is at home with the elixir, and bandits come to steal the elixir, and she drinks it herself to keep it away from them, which is what Shentu does in the first issue of the comic. So that's a little bit of a parallel there. Um, and I believe that the myth goes that she becomes immortal. She flies up to the moon. I don't know how that's related to the immortality or if it's like a side effect. But from there, she becomes the goddess of the moon, and she has moon rabbits as helpers on the moon, and then they
Hmm.
spend the rest of their days like creating medicine or candy in some versions of the myth.
Hmm.
But that's more or less how the myth goes.
That's incredible. That's great. So, speak about how again, this is a story that obviously has a great importance to you. Um, why did you want to bring this character and this sort of this Chinese mythology to the larger Western audience? What's the motivation behind that?
Yeah, so when it comes to the inspiration of the story, I need to go back to when I conceptualized it as a TV show. Because when it came to the point of the comic, like I was adapting what had done at that point. But when I was thinking of the TV show, this was like relatively early on in my screenwriting journey, actually. I came up with the idea and wrote the initial pilot in late 2021, I think. And that was after I had written my first pilot, and I had written a feature and like a couple attempted features as well. And I was thinking, okay, so what am I going to write for my, my next project at this point? And one of the pieces of advice that I often see floating around is that you should write the movie or the TV show that you most want to see. And I think that's just an incredible piece of advice because it kind of completely bypasses the temptation to chase market trends or like write what you think people want to see or anything like that. And if you write what you personally want to see or read, um, you guarantee you have the passion, and even if it doesn't go anywhere, then like at least you have something that you're personally happy with, right? So my like approach to that, like I feel like I took it maybe even a little bit too literally, but I basically like took all the elements of like all the things that I enjoy. Like I love rabbits. Like for one thing, it's like a part of my personal brand. I'm Chinese, so I wanted to like use like my heritage. Um, I I really like superheroes, and this was like a bit more. This was a bit less obvious when it came to the TV show version of the idea because when you're writing a comic book, like of course you probably like superheroes, right? But even though Shentu isn't a traditional like superhero, I think she has some elements of that type of character, and that was sort of something I wanted to intentionally work in. So I was thinking, superheroes, rabbits, ancient China. In terms of the themes and emotions, um, I like moods that are kind of sappy and sentimental and kind of tug at your heartstrings. So I wanted that to kind of be like the emotional undercurrent. And so the end result that I got from putting those elements together was kind of the spark of the idea for Shentu. But
Hmm.
the other component of what motivated me to write it is that I would say what what Shentu as a story and a concept is fundamentally about is like as I envision it is the fear of mortality, and specifically uh not fear of your own mortality, but fear of the mortality of other people in your life. And that kind of goes back to when I was a little kid. I remember like you guys know like when you first realize that the people in your life like aren't, you know, invulnerable, they're not going to be around forever. That terrified me so much when I was a kid, and I've just felt so anxious when I started when I don't know, must have been 6 or 7 years old, and I realized, oh my grandparents are gonna die eventually. And I've actually been very lucky since first having that thought, and that my grandparents have had very long lives actually. Most of them are still alive. But still, the older I get, the more that fear applies to, not just them, but like I see my parents and other relatives getting older, and I think it's scary, and also something that like you clearly can do nothing about, like people are going to age, time is going to pass. And so that like fear is fundamentally what I wanted to explore with Shentu. And I felt that doing it through the lens of an immortal character would best convey the idea from like a child's perspective, because children, they're not immortal, but when you're at that stage in your life, you're not I mean you're probably not worried about like your own self as much, right? Like because you still got your whole life ahead of you, but you're worried about these people in your life that like aren't going to be around forever. And
Hmm.
so that's why like Shentu's persistent, source of stress and what she worries about is basically that dynamic.
Yeah, that's a great. I think um, the fact that we all think about our loved ones and our time together, and that it's not forever, right? So it's a good reminder in any form to just be in the moment and enjoy your time together while you have it, because you're right, it won't be there.
Yeah, I think that's a good summation of it. Like basically the the cheesy message that I would distill Shantu down to is your time with your loved ones is limited, but um that's all the more reason to cherish it. And
Mhm.
it's the second half that's like maybe the more important part, because characters, they all have like their like arcs that they have to go on to grow, right? And so that's why, like, coming into the story, Shantu is more of the belief that, you know and this is I feel like a perspective that a lot of immortal characters have, or characters with long lifespans, like Freerin, as I see someone in the chat mentioned. Um, but yeah, so she kind of initially has the perspective that it's kind of like almost not a waste, but it's like getting close to people just means you're gonna get hurt when when you outlive them. But the idea that she hopefully has by the end of the story is that, even though that time is limited, that's actually more reason to really embrace it and make the most of it, rather than trying to avoid it.
Right. Well said. Um, so the other half of this project, you supply the words for this project, but the other half is the artwork, and I just want to know what your relationship with the artist is, and how you guys came to collaborate, and the amount of, I guess, back and forth that went into designing and putting this world together.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have had the collaborators. I've had you guys are going to see a cat. um, the collaborators I've had on this project, because I really came into this whole endeavor like knowing so little about the entire process. And something else I should mention is that I didn't r- like when I started this comic book project, like it was not with the intention of like, oh, I'm going to do an ongoing series or even 2 issues or 1 issue. Like when I started, like I was legitimately just thinking like, you know what? Um I've seen that there are artists online who you can commission comic book pages from. So I'm gonna do just 1 or 2 pages like for fun, because uh, when you're only screenwriting, like most of the time you just have PDFs of your screenplays, and it like just can feel discouraging at times. But I found so I discovered the comic book collabs subreddit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one, but I saw there were so many great artists on it, and I just decided to reach out to an artist. And the one I found, Davey Hallison, he's based in Brazil. Like I got so lucky right off the bat. Like, and just when we did the first couple test pages, um, like like at the beginning, like my like art direction and like script pages and everything were definitely way worse, because I was trying to adapt from the screenplay to like comic book script with having no clue about what I was doing. But even then, like Davy's execution of like what I was trying to convey was like so exciting to me that I thought like, okay, like I'd like have to do more pages. And I just like page by page, I got close to finishing an issue, and I thought, well, like, might as well commit to finishing the issue. But the 1 issue was also only half of the pilot I had written. And I thought, well, like, I actually, when I was close to finishing the first issue, like I hadn't decided whether or not I was gonna commit to the second issue, because like I loved the whole experience, but also it was pretty like, it was pretty expensive. But Davey asked me, so like, are we going to continue? And I just kind of like decided like, yeah, let's keep going. So yeah, working with him has been really amazing. I and let him to anyone else. And it was a bit later in the process that I found a letterer. I was at a screenwriting event actually, and I met someone who recommended Tom to me as a letterer because again, like I like really didn't know anything. I didn't know like where to find a letterer even. Uh, in in the last couple of months, I've like integrated into the indie comic scene a bit more. So I feel like there's more artists and letterers on my radar now. But back then I knew no one at all. So I was really grateful for the recommendation. And Tom has been so helpful because he like just one small example is like a month or two ago, I like suddenly realized that like all my image files were like completely the wrong resolution and they were going to come out like super blurry when I printed them. And like that was after I had sent them to Tom and I started panicking a little bit. But then like and I was like already thinking like what am I going to do? Like am I going to have to like how much am I going to have to redo? And then I realized that like the pages that Tom sent back to me were just like fixed somehow. Like he had like made them the correct resolution. And even when we were beginning the process, like he was telling me like, send me the art in this file format. Like, here, like don't put anything like near the margins or else that's going to be in the bleed. So he walked me through so many steps of like the more technical parts of the process. So like between him and Davey, like they've definitely been carrying a lot of the project.
Nice. And do you have like a editor?
I don't, but I've since seen like quite a few articles and interviews recommending the importance of an editor. So I'm in the process of trying to find one for like the next step of the project. You guys might have seen that I put out a tweet about that. But for the first couple issues, and unfortunately, it's just me as making the final calls.
Nice. Well, yeah, it's a great. I think our panel has read it. I guess get your thoughts on the project, NammaN and Katie.
Alan, by the way, how old are you?
I'm 30.
Are you from Year of the Rabbit?
No, I'm not. So it's just a little bit fraudulent. But my sister and my dad are both Year of the Rabbit. So like
Okay.
maybe that counts for something.
Okay.
I'm
And,
I'm the Year of the Rooster personally.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Do you are you a fan of Aesop's Fable?
I am. I
Okay.
am.
So,
I
is
like
that where
the whole fairy tale vibe. Also, the other thing about the Year of the Rabbit is that like I feel like it would have been way better if I could have released Shen 2 1 year earlier in the Year of the Rabbit. I feel like that would be really exciting. But instead, I have to settle for what is this year? The Year of the Dragon, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Year of the
So
Dragon.
yeah,
That's a good year to actually, get a project going.
But
Just,
it would have been so clean, like
Yeah.
Year of the Rabbit. Here's Shen 2,
Just to let you know, I don't know if you know the comic book title called Commandy. That's Jack Kirby wrote and drew that.
Command.
Commandy. It's called Last Boy on Earth. Anyway, on issue 2, he introduces character that are rats, right? But he happened to release that in Year of the Rats. So,
Oh yes, see that's the dream.
But so I want to do something similar to that kind of story, like incorporating the fairy. I mean, what do you call it? Myth, legend, or
Folklore.
Folklore.
Legends.
But you just using the premises, the beginning premises, and then everything else is just all your story, right?
Yeah.
So is there any other folklore you're going to introduce as you go down the road?
I think there are some elements that I'll try and weave in when it's convenient, but it's not the focus of the story or the world. Like what I decided early on is that this is this is clearly a world in which like myths are real to some extent, but I wanted it to be that by the time the story begins, even though we're in ancient China at this point, it's already the time where like a lot of like the gods and mythological beings are kind of like on their way out. Like they've like
Mhm.
departed from Earth one way or another, or they're like going
Hmm.
extinct. So that this is kind of like more the time of humans. But I think there will be some opportunities for myths and mythological creatures.
Nice. I've been following you for since however long we met, for like the last month, and every single time you post something to do with Shentu, it really excites me because I love the art and I love the story that's behind it. And when I read the issue one, you are such a great storyteller. The way that you wrote it, it really flows like an animation movie or like an actual anime or something like that, but it flows so nicely that when you get to the end of the chapter, it's you want more. And you did such a great job with that. And the artist did phenomenal job. I loved every
Absolutely.
single bit about this book. And I'm so excited to see more from you because it is so cute. It's so adorable. And I love that. So
It's
yay.
very, very, very
So
kind of you.
for your
Thank you.
first book, that's awesome. You did a great job.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I've you, you guys don't know like how far in over my head I am with all this. Like even like in so many ways. Like when first of all, when I reached out to Otaku at the start of this month, I want to say like I wasn't trying to like slide into his DMs so I could be on the show because sometimes that's how it is, you know. But I genuinely I was trying to say like this is a cool thing you guys are doing. But when he offered to have me on, I thought sure, like I'll well, like why not? It could be a good opportunity. But I got more and more stressed out over the course of this month because at the beginning, like you guys hadn't like announced who was going to be on the show, and then you guys kept having these creators and writers who have so much industry experience and winning all these awards, and I thought like, oh my god, like what am I going to go on and talk about? Like and like they were doing all these great giveaways of their signed prints and all that, and it just got more and more scary because I'm coming on here with my one book that like is literally not even released yet, and it's like it's been really scary in a lot of the ways because when as a creator, you spend like so much of your life dreaming of like when people are going to perceive your work, and then when suddenly you're almost at that point, it's terrifying, and you realize like how nice and safe it was in a lot of ways when you weren't being perceived.
Mhm.
um and that reminds me of when I was talking about the artists, I hadn't mentioned Haining yet, who did the covers for issue 1 and issue 2. um First of all, like her covers are like the best things I've ever seen.
So
Like when
cute.
I feel down or stressed, I just sit and like look at the covers. Um, I reached out to her in November, and I I had a list of artists I thought I would try to reach out to for to potentially do the covers, and she was my like reach person, I guess, like the person, like like your reach college, like the one you apply to then you don't think you're going to get into
Yeah,
it.
right.
But like out of that group of people, she was actually the only person who responded to me, which was kind of a funny turn of events. But I was so surprised that she responded to me, because Spirit World, DC's Spirit World miniseries, if you guys have read that, that was the series that like got me to start going into comic book stores consistently, because at that point I was already starting to get into comic books. Like I was um I was reading older issues, but when I heard about Spirit World, I thought that was the coolest thing that I'd like ever heard of, basically. So just got me to start reading comics. And so because like the work that Haining and Alyssa Wong did on that series was like so like foundational to my comics book journey, I feel like Haining like what was near the top of the list of like people who like it would be my dream to like work with in some capacity.
Wow.
So it's like pretty surreal that she she did the covers for this. Like I feel so grateful, and not just grateful, but when I saw the covers, like not even the finished ones, but just the initial sketches, that was when this became like a completely real project, like to me, because before then, even though I had like a lot of the first issue done at that point, like it kind of felt like I was like just like messing around, like spending some money for fun. But once I saw the cover, I thought like it's kind of like it feels serious now, because if I'm gonna create this thing, I don't want to have like a cover this good and then have people just be disappointed when they open it and read what's inside, right? Like I mean, at the end of the day, it's a Haining cover, so like I don't know, like there's probably gonna be like some gap regardless in like my ability to measure up to that. But like it really motivated me to like to do the best work that I could, because like her art elevated the project so much. So I thought, like, and everyone else's work, like Davey and Tom, they did great work on it too. So I felt like I had to step up and do my part as the writer.
How are you funding this?
So, sorry?
How are you funding this?
Funding? Like very like painfully, I guess. So yeah, it's been expensive for sure, and I saw pretty early on, like when I was starting to figure this out, that like a lot of people do Kickstarters or other crowdfunding campaigns for their indie comics, and I decided to not do that for the first couple issues. I don't know if that is like the correct decision or not, but my reasoning was basically that I just didn't feel right asking people for funding when I had like no work to show for myself at all. But I figured, okay, so like for the first, for like the debut, essentially, I'm just gonna like eat the cost, put the work out there, and then if people enjoy it, then you know if I need some financial support for the next stage of the project, I would feel more comfortable asking for people. And I don't know, like, because I see there are clearly a lot of advantages to crowdfunding, because it gives you a lot more opportunities to like put yourself out there and be seen, and it's like you can post a lot about your milestones, like we're almost at 100 backers or $1,000 or 80% or whatever, and it feels like it's a little harder to get momentum when I'm advertising Shentu, because my milestones, I mean, I guess I could post my own made up milestones anyway, but it's just not like as directly visible. And sometimes I wish like I had some of that incentive to get people to to buy. But also, like, I kind of appreciate the lack of pressure on myself and like on my friends and family, because I honestly get a lot of secondhand stress like looking at other people's campaigns, because like I want
Yes.
I want them all to succeed, and like I'm trying to support as many as I can now that I'm like, you know, part of the
Yeah.
scene. But like when I see like people's campaigns hitting like the mid campaign slump, I'm just it just
You know, I know. You're like,
yeah,
oh no.
it's
You're
so
like, what can I
stressful.
do? Yeah. But there's a good option, especially if you're first starting out, is to either get a large fan base by posting it around or putting like the first couple of chapters on like global comics or webtoons just to get it out there so that you grow that fan base. I see a ton of comic people do that. And then when they get enough issues in is when they do like the trade or something, and then that's when they'll go to Kickstarter. But you can easily grow your fan base big time on those kind of websites.
Yeah, that sounds like a very sensible approach, probably more sensible than what I'm doing.
But I think people, when they read this, I think they're gonna really love it, especially people that love like Miyazaki, animated movies, anything to do with like the Chinese lore, because there's a ton of, even though you're not heavily driven in the lore, like it has some elements, there's so many amazing like lore that have to do with the moon, the zodiac and stuff that are around there that I think people would just instantly fall in love with your story.
Yeah, I'm hoping that those elements can be like somewhat like uh new and exciting to people, because like one of the reasons why I'm excited to showcase some like Chinese mythology and cultural elements is that I feel like it's like surprisingly like underrepresented in comics and Western comics. Like I feel like there's a lot of Japanese culture, which is great, and I'm a
Yes.
huge fan. There's not as much like Chinese mythology in Western comics or maybe media as a whole. So like I would say I'm not the most like qualified expert to, you know, be the person introducing people to those myths, but I mean maybe it is falling upon me, so I'll do what I can.
I
No,
think it's a good starter point. I really do.
yeah, I mean, like Katie was saying, it's a story that not a lot of people, you know, have a knowledge of, and so you're if anytime you can bridge that knowledge gap, you're just going to bring more people into learning about something new about a culture they probably don't understand very well. So, yeah,
Yeah,
kudos to
and
you.
plus, if they're, you know, if they're not familiar with the myths, maybe like some parts they'll think that I came up with it, you know, and they'll be like, "Oh, how did you come up with that?" And I'll say, I don't know, just like flash of inspiration, you know."
It was in my genes.
My ancestors spoke to me.
All right, Alan, you said the book's coming out September. For those watching, how can they get their hands on it, and how can they, when will it become sort of available to people to purchase?
Yeah, so it's currently available to purchase. Like, so I have like very minimal experience when it comes to like marketing and business stuff. So my like very simple plan was to announce the comic on May 1st because I figured it's like AAPI month, so you know it's kind of a good time for that. And then I decided I would release the comic in like roughly around September because that just like made sense with the timelines. And then I figured because it's going to be September, I'm going to release it on September 17th, which is when the Mid Autumn Festival is this year. Because
Okay.
that's the holiday that is kind of tied up in with the myths of Tanga and the moon. Because and you know that's when people eat mooncakes and all that. So I figured it's just kind of like a good, you know,
Yeah.
date to aim for. But yeah, the comics they're available for pre-order now on my website, which I think the link is being spammed in chats. So hopefully people can find that, or also just like on my social media. My hope is that my links are correctly leading to my website and my Shopify store. So if those pathways are working correctly, uh, then they should lead to the store.
All right, we
Yes.
got some questions from the chat.
Uh,
are you familiar with Ma Wingsheng's works like Feng Wang or Chinese Hero Tales of the Blood Sword?
No, I'm actually not very familiar with manhwa series generally. Like I know, like I have a little bit of experience with like some Chinese literature, I guess, but like manhwa is a little bit more of a blind spot in the
Mm-hmm.
media I've consumed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say start with the movies because there's movies, live actions of some of these that are fantastic. So if you watch them, you'll probably want to get into some of these stories because they're really good.
Yeah. Like I mean, I feel like everyone's like backlog of media content is like more
Matt, like
than we could get
14
through
years
in
long. Yeah.
several lifetimes. Like not even Shentu could
Yeah.
get through it all. But
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's definitely like a space that's kind of a blind spot in what I've consumed, and I will seek to rectify that.
Mm-hmm. Now, who are some of the other, I guess, comic book creators, or just, I guess, globally, manhwa or manga artists and writers who've inspired your work, or the people you kind of like, this is somebody who's influenced me. I want something, if I'm creating something, to have this kind of effect that these creators have had on me. Who are some of those people in the industry for you?
Well, so Miyazaki and like the Ghibli movie as a whole like come to mind just because they're mentioned a little bit. Like obviously not really a direct like comic book comparison, but when it comes to like the sort of like effect that I want my work to have ultimately, it's kind of that vibe where eh, those movies and also uh Makoto Shinkai's works like more recently. I don't know if you guys have seen any of those, but it's like
Yeah, the animation's amazing.
yeah, Suzume and the other movies that he's done. But like those movies to me, they're like very like they kind of fill the full emotional spectrum in terms of they have like heartwarming moments and also like they like hit you in the feels, but there's also comedy. I like work that like kind of just like you like consume it and you like leave feeling like you've been fulfilled, like all of your emotions have been fulfilled in some
Mm-hmm.
way. So that's one influence. When I think of um like more comic book specific influences, I've been loving a lot of James Tinian. Is that how you pronounce his name? Like his works, like something is killing the children is one of my favorite series right now. I don't know if like that. I mean, I do enjoy my horror, but like that's probably not the type of like work that like I'm directly trying to make. But I am like a huge fan of just like how gripping his writing and his work is. So like I mean that's always something to emulate as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of stuff that Tom King has done. Like Woman of Tomorrow is amazing. I feel like Tom King is a little bit like polarizing as a writer and creator, and I haven't read everything of his, but what I've seen, I've enjoyed a lot. Because I think some people think he's too wordy, but um, and I don't know, maybe that is true in some cases, but especially coming from like something of a prose background, I feel like I appreciate the I don't know the sentences he strings together.
Mm-hmm. No, I think I'm a fan of Tom King, so yes, I completely agree with you. Um, any, any other questions from the chat that we're not addressing?
Oh, they're talking about A Man Called Hero, which is the live action for the Chinese Hero series.
Okay.
It's got all of our epic dudes in it. But yes, if you have not read or seen anything to do with the Storm Riders, which is Wind and Cloud, it is phenomenal. Go watch it. It's amazing. But the Chinese Hero slash.
But Sonogo, are you familiar with Sonogo?
No, I don't think so.
Well, the Monkey Prince.
Yes, I am absolutely familiar. Actually, the the cartoon, I would say, is one of like is like part of the somewhat part of the inspiration for Shentu, because I watched those cartoons growing up, and I guess the live action show as well. So
Yeah.
that's part of the DNA of Shentu.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, you had, as growing up as a child, these are stories, that were read to you, shared with you when you were very young, right?
Yeah.
And they've stayed with you pretty much your entire life. Um, can you talk about like your connection with mainland China? Have you been back at all? What's
Yeah, I've been to China quite a few times in my life. I actually first went back there like pretty much like immediately after I was born. Like is this what I was told? So I was born in America, but I like immediately went back like for a year or so. I think so my grandparents could help take care of me. But in terms of my connection to China, I would go back like as a kid. I would like go back for the summer, like every 3 or 4 years. And once, after I turned 18, it kind of fell to me to decide like when to go back or not. And I had, and in from like 2016 to 2019, I started hitting a really good rhythm of going back at least once every year. Like sometimes I would go
oh
twice.
wow,
And I felt like I was really connecting with my heritage, and I have a lot of family in China, and I really liked spending spending time with them. And I felt like, because when you see them only every 3 or 4 years, it's like every time I saw them, we would kind of go through the initial phases of getting to know each other, and then I'd leave and come back like a few years later and we'd start again. That's actually how I feel about skiing. Kind of like a tangent, but like I do not know how to ski, because every time I go, like you're only there for the weekend. I like start remembering how to ski and then the trip's over. But anyway, China, I had just started getting into a good rhythm of going back every year, and then COVID like completely like iced iced that. And I haven't gone back since for a few years. Like it just
oh
like was
no,
not
yeah,
really
Aw.
like viable to go back into China.
right,
And it's only just in the last year or two where it's like kind of like possible to go again. But the airfare's a little bit high, and I was planning on going this year, actually like last month basically, but some family stuff came up, and that's actually why I'm here house sitting in Las Vegas. So that's so I've slightly delayed my return to China, but I am looking to go back when I can.
great, great. And in terms of your fluency with the language, it sounds like you have a good command of it.
It's much worse than the command I would like to have of it. Like I've this is so like like I feel like this is what happens to like almost all Asian Americans. But I was a kid, and my mom like would make me go to Chinese school, and I never wanted to go. And now, of course, it's like, yeah, I should have paid more attention. Because I think I can like kind of get by in terms of communicating in Chinese. Like I can understand, like I'm conversational more or less, but it's an uphill battle a lot of the time.
Uh-huh. No, it's a challenge. I think you're caught between two cultures here, and when you really start school, it's like your English speaking identity or brain takes over, and that becomes sort of the dominant. Whereas when you were younger, your dominant language was your mother tongue, but you enter school, and then it kind of switches. It kind of
Yeah, that's a
swaps
good point,
places.
because my parents came to America, like I suppose the first language I ever learned would have been Chinese. So it's like it is technically my first language, but that
Yeah.
sounds really weird to say. I cannot name all the Taoist immortals, but I'm just a fraudulent Chinese. But yeah, I guess like ever since I started going to school, like English kind of became my primary language.
Right. Yeah. What's your take on Zhao Ying Summers from Real Rude 6?
Zhao Ying Summers, see she's a comedian. Not too familiar with her, so I don't have much of a take on her. I've been reading a lot of X-Men comics. So I tell you a little bit about the Summers family, but not Zhao Ying Summers, unfortunately. And I speak Mandarin.
Is that a southern part of China or?
Well, Sichuan or Chongqing, where my family is from, is in the southern part of China.
Now, I should have asked this before. Can we show some of your books?
Yeah, of course. So we can definitely show the covers at the very least. And there was one I had tweeted a few sample pages at one point. Like those are probably the easiest to share.
Are those on your website or Instagram?
So it's on my Twitter, but they're also on the store. It might be harder to the resolution might be a little bit wonkier on the store.
Mm-hmm.
But let me, if I can find the tweet. Yeah, I have the.
Yeah, if there's a link, please share it so the chat can. We'll share the screen as well.
Yeah. Actually, it looks like I will have to connect to the chat or something. I'm gonna put it in our Instagram chat if that works, and then maybe one of you guys can pull it up from there.
Okay.
Yep, it's on it.
And in the the funniest thing to come out of China. I feel like that's a bold claim because there's like a lot of Chinese things and people. But yeah, I will check her out. Chengdu is a city in the Sichuan region. So as far as I understand.
Is this what you mean to show right here?
Yeah, so yeah, maybe we can show the covers as well for people who haven't seen them. But these are the sample pages.
Oops. Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Or actually, if you want to look at my pinned tweet, I have the cover images as like just individual images there. So that's probably the easiest way to see them.
In tweet, this one.
So just if you go to my my profile, yeah, in the top tweet, I have the covers as individual images. So yeah, this is the first cover that Heining did. I really love what he did with the seasons in the background. That's one of the motifs of Shentu as a series. You know, just kind of the passage of time and the cycle of life and all that. I really love just the color it brings to the cover as a whole.
It's so cute.
Yeah, the very anime feel to the.
Who said it first? The Art and Times of Joy say something about a sexy bunny or something.
Yeah, she's a rabbit.
Immortal, sexy rabbit girl. Her new description.
She's got a very cute outfit. It's got some leg action every now and then.
Yeah, she's showing off some thigh, very scandalous, especially in ancient times.
You're not. I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but what's that called? Furry?
I'm a little bit concerned about where this is going, but
Not furry, not furry. And yes, Jay, that is the elixir of life.
yes, that is meant to be the elixir.
See, he knew automatically that.
But it's correct.
Kind lady.
So you have the original art of these two pieces, correct?
It's all digital as
Oh,
far
it's
as I
only
know.
digital. Okay, so the artists have them. Okay,
Yeah.
you should get the prints. You should get the original print.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It's so cute. They did a really good job on this.
Yeah,
You did a
it's
great job on the story. They did a great job on the art and the coloring. It's so good.
Yeah.
And the way it flows is lovely because, like, you start with one story, you kind of flow through it to a couple other stories, but then you end with the first chapter, and you're like, wow, that's amazing how much you really can take in all of it and how it all connects.
I actually love this trade dress.
Oh, yeah, that's cute.
Yeah. Any more to show? Can we show?
So that's his website right there, where you can actually buy the physical and the digital copies of right there.
Okay.
So I have a question: are the digital copies, if they purchase that now, are they available now, or do they have to wait to September?
No, those are it's all gonna release in September.
Okay.
Although, like sometimes I feel a little bit antsy about like how much of a gap there is between announcing the comic and releasing it. The reason I did it that way is mostly because I wanted to have both issues ready, which like I don't know if that like I don't know how much sense that really makes. But I had kind of committed to that decision. So I figured I kind of just like hold on to the first issue until the second one is ready. And sometimes I regret it a little bit because like I just get impatient, you know, and I want people to like perceive it and react to it. But I don't know, like hopefully it'll be worth the wait when people can read both issues at once.
I think so because
They-
we read, what did we read? The first issue?
Yeah, the
when
first
I got
issue.
to the end of that first issue, I was like, no, I need more.
Well,
I
actually,
want
you know,
more.
this is
Yeah.
something that I want to hear your perspective on, because part of the reason why I'm holding off on the first issue is because that is the halfway point of the pilot, so it's like kind of like a cliffhanger-ish moment, and I thought it's gonna be unsatisfying to people if, you know, to just leave them off on this, whereas like the two issues, they kind of tell a complete prologue to the story. I
Okay.
guess it's a little bit more like enclosed that way, but
Yeah.
like yeah, like do you feel like it was like jarring to read just the first issue?
No, because I enjoyed that, because now I'm anticipating the next issue and I want the next issue. So I'm fully invested in this now. So
Yeah.
What is it? We got a couple months before it's even released. So no, I think by you teasing this and keep getting people out there and letting people see like your work and stuff, you're going to build that fan base for when September comes. And then you get people talking about it, they're going to want to read both issues right away. But I loved just the entire storyline that you had going. You've built a great world. You built a great story. Good characters are really well thought out. So you're really invested by the first page, and you want more and more and more of what you're seeing. And like I said earlier, I love that you were doing this as like a kind of like a screenplay type thing, because it feels that way when you're reading it. It feels like you're on episode 1 or 2 of an anime and you want to keep continuing to watch the whole saga unfold, because it's really, really good.
Actually, it feels like you're creating your own lore. I mean, at first I thought you were borrowing the, lore that existed, but you're creating your own. It feels, I mean, that's what it feels like to me when I read it.
Yeah, it does diverge from the existing myths pretty quickly. See, there's a comment about giving buyers a deal. That is what I'm trying to do. So you guys might have seen on the website, there's a bundle of
Yeah,
the
so
first
that
two
this bundle
issues,
discount.
and
Yeah.
I made it like quite a generous bundle in my opinion, because I specifically I wanted people to buy both issues. Like I would rather, because otherwise I feel like some people just buy one issue, and like I thought, but it's really so much more of a complete experience if you can read both issues, I think.
Yes.
So that's why I tried to encourage that as much as possible with the bundle.
I think Comic Jenny has some question that I'm a little curious about too. Is this true? I mean, why do more people in New York speak Mandarin and more people speak Cantonese in California? I don't know if that's true. Is that true?
I don't think that's true.
I think there's a
Oh,
lot of Cantonese speakers in New York because, well, I guess what it comes down to is like the the communities that like, or like where the people who kind of founded those communities came from originally.
Right.
Um,
I mean, you're going to have more Mandarin speakers just throughout. So, um, if you're in New York and you see people speaking Mandarin, well, that's because there's just more Mandarin speakers.
yeah, but for what it's worth, like I lived in Manhattan's Chinatown for uh like 5 years or so before I moved to LA. And I think there's probably, I don't know, there's a lot of Cantonese speakers
Hmm.
there, like maybe more
Absolutely.
than Mandarin. But yeah, I'm not sure what the exact breakdown is.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Hold on a second. I want to address something that Jay Ryan says. So Jay Ryan is in Canada, and
Canadian.
I call him Canada all the time. So what I did was I was on your website and I flipped it from U.S. to Canada, and not all the bundles are flipping over. So
Oh,
so you might want to double check that as well, because he says it's $7 for issue and then just $14 for the bundle on his end. But when you go to like the regular side for the US, it shows way more bundles for like the digital and the combined bundle.
oh, I see. I'm figuring out what to do with I'm still learning a lot of the processes with Shopify, but I think what's happening there is I currently have the physical issues for like you can only purchase them in the US, because I was kind of just like I didn't know how to deal with international shipping. I think
Okay.
I should be able to add can like there's really no reason to not like ship to Canada as well, because I think that's not m- much more
As bad.
complicated
Yeah.
or expensive.
Right.
Compared
Yes.
to other international countries. So that's a good point. I'm gonna try and add to fix that in Shopify, which should
Okay.
make the bundles appear in
Okay.
Canada as well.
What I would do is talk to Jeff Schiller and ask him what he does, because he uses, I believe, Pirate Ship, and a couple of the other indie guys use Pirate Ship, and it saves a ton of money when you're trying to ship even to Canada. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
but
I'll definitely have
yeah,
to ask him about that, because as he mentioned on his chat with you, I met him at a convention
yeah,
a couple months ago. So and I know he uses Shopify too. So I've been
yeah.
asking him questions now and then.
oh, you mentioned convention. Do you go to convention to be a fan, or you go there to promote too?
So I've been going as a fan mostly, and even now I haven't really gone to promote, because I mean in the last few uh in the last few cons I've been to, I try to connect with the indie creators I see there, because like first of all I want to buy their comics, and then if I have an opportunity to chat with them, I will mention also I have like I have a comic coming out, like can I follow you on socials, and just like that sort of basic touching base. Once the comic is actually out, I do want to look into making more like more efforts to maybe table at some smaller ones and sell some issues that way. But so far I've just been going as a fan, and that's been sort of a recent hobby for me. Like in
Hmm.
the past I've gone to uh probably more anime conventions than comic book focused ones, and I generally didn't enjoy them that much because I felt like you'd have to wait in line for a long time, and then there just like wasn't that much to do. But now that I'm a bit more integrated into the, I guess, the comic book space, like there's just more stuff for me to do at conventions, like just looking for other indie creators. Like I like looking through the, the dollar bins that comic book vendors bring, and stuff like that. So I'm starting to enjoy going to conventions more and more.
Great.
Alan, you say you watch a lot of our shows. Which creators would you like to connect with?
Uh, I probably all all of them. I'd say, but like the most recent one I watched was like the daytime episode you guys did with porn sock.
Ponce?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like since he's a writer as well, I was paying extra close attention to what
You know
what
what?
he was
I
doing.
forgot all about that. I need to change his title to Meet the Writer, and I need to change your title to Meet the Writer as well, because it wasn't very clear to me that we're inviting a writer, not an artist. And you didn't correct my thumbnail either. So I need to change that, but yeah, that's a good reminder for me. I need.
So, Alan, you've got roughly the summer to kind of promote the book. What are your plans outside of just social media and sort of the internet to promote? Are you doing anything maybe offline or something through the cons to promote the book?
Yeah. So I had a period of time, like before I had even announced the book, where I was just like sitting, because after it was probably February or March, I decided, okay, I'm gonna announce the comic in May. So that gave me a couple of months where I'd like was it wasn't like a secret that I was doing the comic, but I just like wasn't talking about it everywhere publicly. And so I had a couple of months to just kind of like pre-plan my promotional activities. And a lot of that was pretty basic stuff, like just making lists, a bunch of lists basically of like people in my life to reach out to, like all the entertainment industry people I've met, like in my adventures in screenwriting and comic book writing. I made lists of comic book news websites and review channels and podcasts and stuff like that to potentially reach out to. And I haven't come close to reaching out to all those people on my list. So I'm gonna do some of that, and that's I printed out some physical copies of that this one flyer I have basically, which is what you guys saw online as well. And I've even just like uh been talking to like a few local comic book stores and just even like boba shops just that I frequent, if I can leave a few flyers there. So that part has been like pretty fun. Like I don't know how many sales that's going to convert to necessarily, but it feels kind of like scrappy and real to be like boots on the ground putting flyers like in just in local establishments. So that's one thing I've been doing. And I've also, I guess I'm trying to connect with other creators and writers in the space as much as I can. Take some opportunities to go on more shows and podcasts if I can do that. But I didn't have plans to promote like at cons really, because I feel like it's a bit like it feels a bit lamer to like promote when the comic book isn't out. Like I plan to go harder on all that once I can immediately give people, hand them the comics and do things like that. So for the time being, I'm like, holding back a little bit.
Yeah.
A boba tea shop at your LCS.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need like where is this? I need
State
to.
of Comics. It's State of Comics in Plymouth, Michigan.
That's that sounds like a perfect experience because like sometimes what I do now like on new on Wednesdays, what I do is I'll like go pick up my new comics and then I'll go pick up a fruit tea and I go home and that's like I have my like self-care
Nice.
evening with comics
Yeah.
and boba. But if you could get that all in one store, that just sounds like the
It's
greatest
the best.
establishment.
It's the best. I
Yeah.
hang with Jason there for free comic book day, and then I'll go like do our boba tea run and bring us back drinks.
Oh, you're making me hungry now.
Yeah, it sounds like a great experience.
Comic and Boba Wednesdays.
Oh no.
I want a beer shop then. I want a comic and beer shop.
Comic and beer shop, nice.
Yeah, I mean, so many potential
Brewery, Michael Brewery.
beverage
And
conversations to be had. There should be like there should be a comic book store that does like coffee in the morning, and then like boba in the afternoon, and then like at night it turns into like a brewery. So just, no matter what time of day, you can get your beverage.
Hey, more chance they'll ruin your comic book and buy it again.
Yeah,
Exactly.
great business.
Coming back for more.
Oh, gosh. The person I thought might be interesting for you to hook up was I thought Eric Yamamoto. You seen his interview?
No, I haven't seen that one. Was that one of? It was one of the more recent ones. Is that right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
the
look
one.
at that.
He's the one that does the storyboarding. But he did storyboarding for the movie. The movies, like what was some of the movies he did?
He was starting into the Marvel and Disney stuff at the moment, but he did several of the other movies. But it was so fascinating listening to him talk because when he's doing the storyboard, you don't just think of like a 2D flat panel of art. You think about it full 360, but you also think about it in the different camera lenses that they're using. So he has to imagine all that when he's going to do a storyboard. So the whole thing is like pretty much in motion, which is that was just fascinating listening to him talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely gotta go back and watch that one. Like I saw all the creators you featured. I basically like immediately follow all of them on social media, and it's because like so many of them just have amazing art. But I haven't watched all the videos yet.
Yeah, well, I think you might find them interesting because he's actually in a movie industry, so that's why.
Yeah. He's a big wig in Hollywood, so from the storyboard perspective.
And our resident artist Ryan Odegawa, he's writing a comic book too. So, but it's more of a historical.
Yeah, that was the like you guys like kicked off the month with his interview, right?
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the one. That was the one I watched, and then I reached out to Otaku like immediately after that happened.
Oh, okay, cool.
Awesome.
Well, I appreciate that you will come and contact us. It's really hard trying to contact artists and writers.
Well, I mean that's because like everyone else, they're more established, so I'm sure it's harder to contact them and like schedule with them and everything. But I'm basically at the beginning of my journey here, so I'm grateful to.
We have we have a beginning artist. We have we don't discriminate.
Yeah.
Well, I have to bring some variety to the show, right? Because you can't have just everyone be like extremely experienced and established. You need some newbies as well.
Yeah. I was gonna say next year you're gonna be so busy you're not gonna have time for us.
Right, I was gonna say like you're gonna come back on, right?
You know what? Hopefully we're so busy that we won't have time for him either.
Yeah, we're all, like we'll all be ghosting each other at the same time.
And yeah. I'll tag you for Shelby later. He's a industry leader, if you will, in back in the day. He used to work for Extreme Studios and Image. He actually worked for Rob Liefeld right here. Hey, I've invited you on my show many times, and you have appeared on my late night hangouts multiple times. Both of you turns have. Yeah.
Some tea brewing in real time.
So, Alan, like, again, the book's coming out in September. We'd love to connect with you then to just, talk about right before you launch, like kind of revisit and get people excited about, the launch again, and just reconnect with you in September if that's cool.
Yeah, I want to like stay in contact with you guys, like not even to talk about Gentoo or anything. Like the reason I was so excited to find you guys initially was because like I haven't seen a lot of like other Asians like in the comic book space, like not even just as creators but as fans as well. And like I'm honestly just like I want to talk comic books with more people, so I'm gonna be around.
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And definitely
Go ahead, Otaku.
yeah, we want to connect you with Ryan, and because he's in your area, so if, obviously if there's an opportunity for you guys to meet up and just chat, because he's got a lot of experience under his belt, so just be good to network with him as well.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that.
Great.
I remember on 31st we're gonna we could still we could buy this, so we could pre-order them right now.
Yeah.
So we'll be I'll be ordering a couple for myself, and then we'll give some away. And on May 31st, guys, in the chat, we'll be giving away a couple of these books, and it'll get to you by September 30th, right, or September 1st.
The 17th is well, the 17th is like the official release date, I guess, but like there might be a little bit of fluctuation because I'm gonna have to like ship the physical issues like a little bit before that.
Mhm.
And then like I don't know, like there some might get there a little bit early maybe, but like 17th is the official date.
Right.
Okay.
And for people getting actual copies of the book, are you going to be signing the books as well as they go out?
So this is something that I probably like should have a better mechanism for. Like I'm happy to sign for whoever wants it. Like I don't know if I should have put like a field in the like just like in the store for people who want that, because like if people ask me to sign it, I'll definitely sign it. But like I don't know if I should put something in the store for that.
Okay, yeah, there should be maybe an option. But yeah, if you want a signed book when it goes out, be sure to message Alan before that.
Yeah,
or
I'll also try to think of like a better mechanism for taking care of all that.
Hey, and
you need to get it out of signature too somehow, but but he's in different countries, so that'll be tough. Oh, wow,
so we have Alex Bustos in the chat. Hi, Alex. We're going to be featuring her next, actually, on Sunday.
That's awesome. We're doing like a relay race, like
I'm telling after her. We featured her last year, and she's just this incredible artist up in Vancouver. We're gonna just reconnect with her and
she's
see
adorable.
Yeah, she's awesome. But we also have Bernard Chang and Sean Chen and John Jiang coming up later in the month. None of them really concretely scheduled at this point. There's
no. We do have a concrete schedule on
Sean
Bernard and Alan Chen. I mean Sean Chen and Bernard Chen.
Okay, Bernard did. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we don't have a concrete schedule on John Jiang yet.
Okay, that's awesome. When are Bernard and Sean coming on?
Sean is the 29th.
Bernard's 27th, 11 p.m. Eastern time, and Sean Chen is on
The 29th.
29th, so 11 p.m.
Same-
Both of them
same
are
time.
11 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh man, I'd be so excited to have those guys on.
Oh, they're so much fun. You'll like
Oh
those
my
guys.
gosh,
They're
it's like-
adorable.
man,
Yeah,
those guys are just gonna
I'll
be
be attending
awesome.
as many as possible. So
Yeah.
looking forward to those as well.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna
And don't forget 31st. We're gonna
and
be
don't forget 31st. Mm-hmm.
31st. What? Yeah.
We're having
Yeah.
a big sort of wrap up party. We're gonna be streaming for probably the entire day right now.
Probably.
We're gonna have 500 duck races, I think, planned.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if I can afford
Whack.
500 races.
Yeah.
He's gonna be ducked out.
Yeah, one of the I think one of the first times I came into the stream was when you guys were doing the duck race, and I had no idea what was going on. And then I got added to the race, and that's what's happened.
I know. That's how we got you hooked. We got you hooked.
We would have got him really hooked if he actually won something.
I mean, you're still on the list. You can win something on the 31st.
I feel like we should do like a rabbit race. Do they have a rabbit?
Oh yeah,
outlet?
that would be
Okay, I think I can find the
Tortoise
rabbit.
and hare race, right?
Maybe
Nice.
tortoise race. When we're giving your stuff away, we have a rabbit race.
Nice.
Yeah, that just
All
makes-
right,
makes too
Alan.
much
Well,
Perfect.
yeah, Alan, thanks for your time again. And we're again, Cheng 2, it's going to be available in September. It's available for pre-order on Alan's online shop. So, Alan, let people know your how to reach you.
Yeah, so what I use mostly is Twitter, which my Twitter is just my name. It's Alan York Wu. If you go there, it's probably the easiest way to reach me. And I also have a link tree there that has my other socials. Like I'm Alan York Wu on most stuff. I'm trying to be consistent with that. The only other one is Instagram, which is Wow Ausla, which is probably a little bit confusing. And it's like kind of a it's like a from my gaming days. But everything else for the most part is Alan York Wu.
Yep, and we'll have the links in this video as well. So again, check out his project, go support it. And Alan Wu, everybody, thank you so much for your time.
Yep, thank you guys.
Thanks, chat. Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.